Okay, let's welcome our guests to Inuvik. Yeah, let's welcome our guests to Inuvik, folks. Here comes our Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau. Thank you very much, Mr. Trudeau.
Good to see you. Yeah, great to see you, my friend. I'm glad to have you here.
Prime Minister Trudeau, folks, right here. Let's give him a big warm welcome. Welcome to Inuvik. Welcome to the Western Arctic. Welcome to the land of the N.W.T and the Gwich'in, sir. Yes, we also have our Chief Executive Officer of the N.W.T Regional Corporation, Mr. Dwayne Smith. Come on in, folks. Okay, we're going right into... Then we'll go Canada. Oh, yeah. You okay. Have a seat. You want us to sit down? Yeah, have a seat. Yeah, come on in, folks. Yes, come on in. Yeah. And we got our elder Lillian Elias with the Prime Minister and our CEO. Okay? Yes. Now, folks, we'd like you to all stand as we sing "O Canada." Doris Rogers from Inuvik. Take your hats off, please. Mike.
Do I start right now? Okay.
Yes. Just tell them from Canada.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keeps our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Ariga. Ariga, everybody. Have a seat. If you have a seat. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming out. As you heard, I'm Dwayne, Chair of IRC. Welcome again for the nice turnout. I hope everybody enjoyed the march earlier. Thank you again for taking part. It's important to recognize and show respect for reconciliation, especially to those that didn't get through it in the past. I will leave the announcement to the Right Honourable Prime Minister after to make some comments. The handsome young guy with him, I will steal that thunder, is one of his sons. But you'll probably be seeing that guy a lot in the future because he's a basketball star. So, but again, really appreciative of everybody coming out today. Good turnout. Thanks to all the youth. I know it's a holiday and you have other things that you could have been doing. I know you've all been waiting for the food. I hope you enjoyed the cultural performances of our traditional games. Those are, we call them games, but they're not really. They're designed to show people and let them go through these to build up their skills for endurance, to have patience, to learn how to get through things when you're struggling. And as we go through this, we're here today to show our support for reconciliation. And again, I'll leave that announcement for my colleague here. I'm looking for, oh, there she is. No, Helena. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if it was that first. I do want to thank Doris again for singing "O Canada." Everybody knows Doris. And if you haven't seen her at the talent show, she's amazing. One of the local talents. And again, we do have some other activities that are going to take place. I know you're all hungry. We've got the volunteers. I just want to express our appreciation to them, especially to, I see Greta there, as well as Stephanie, and the park staff that have taken their time out to assist as well. Much appreciated. And with that, I know you do not want to hear from me. You've heard from me many times already. But again, I just want to express my appreciation for the support everybody here is showing. And I would like to now call upon the Right Honourable Prime Minister of Canada.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you for welcoming me up here. Thank you, all of you. How's everyone doing today? All right. Yeah, you kids are just happy because it's not a school day. But this is a really important day. This is a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And it's a day not just here, but right across the country. People reflect on the journey of reconciliation, reflect on the difficult truths of the past, a truth like the fact that we are standing right now in a place that used to be a residential school, where kids were taken from their languages, taken from their communities, taken from their families, and taught or forced to think that their identity, their culture, their language wasn't worthy, wasn't worth learning, wasn't worth celebrating. Can you imagine that, being told not to be proud of who you are, not to be proud of your language, not to be proud of your grandparents and great-grandparents and the traditions that have made Inuit strong for millennia? But that's what residential schools were all about. And on this day of truth and reconciliation, we have to reflect on that past, understand that it's not just past, that survivors of residential schools are still among us, and that kids and grandkids are still impacted by their parents, their grandparents being in residential schools. It's not just about the past, it's about the present. It's about understanding that what we have to do as a country, everyone, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, is learn to respect and celebrate Indigenous cultures, language, stories, and learn to truly partner in protecting this land and building a future for everyone. That's what this day is about, because even as we talk about the residential schools that took kids from their families, we have to realize that over much of the 20th century, every single school in Canada was a little bit like a residential school in that non-Indigenous kids were being taught not to respect Indigenous languages and cultures as well. And that's what has to be unlearned, not just by Indigenous peoples taking pride in being Inuit, First Nations, Métis, but in every single non-Indigenous Canadian also taking an understanding and pride and strength in appreciating and including Indigenous languages, cultures, knowledge, and ways of living on this planet. That's what this is about. It's a day of recognition of the past as we celebrate this National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, but it's also about looking towards the future. And that's what brings me here today. We just signed a 10-year agreement with the Inuvik Regional Corporation with over $500 million going from the federal government to IRC to make sure that child and family services is driven, that kids are protected here in your communities by your communities. For too long in this country, kids at risk would be taken out of their families, out of their communities, even as recently as, well, today. Kids would be taken from their communities for their protection, but they would be taken from Indigenous languages and cultures and their stories and their communities. And what Bill C-92 that we passed a few years ago, and what the 11 now agreements that this government has signed across the country is all about, is making sure that when kids are at risk, they are protected and supported within their communities, by their communities, not taken from their language, their identity, their culture, their past, and their future. That's what this is all about. That's what this big agreement is all about, and that's why I'm so glad to be here today with all of you to mark that. But there's another reason I'm really glad to be here today. The first time I was here in Inuvik was about 40 years ago. It was a few months before a landmark historic agreement signed by the Canadian government to recognize the leadership of the Inuvik Regional Corporation and the future that you've been able to build over the past 40 years. And I was here with my dad, who was Prime Minister at that time, to mark that important part of this region's history and future. But the last time I was in Inuvik was for a sunrise ceremony in January of 2015. And I had a little guy with me. You see some of the old pictures. It was that. My son Xavier, who is now taller than me, was dancing up a storm with us as we were celebrating the Sunrise Festival in 2015. And I remember that was a really important moment because I wasn't yet Prime Minister. But I came up here to make commitments and promises, not just to the people of Inuvik, but to Indigenous peoples right across this country. That if I became Prime Minister a few months later, I would put reconciliation at the center of everything we did. And for the past 8 years now, the federal government has made significant strides forward on reconciliation. Back then in January 2015, Stephen Harper was Prime Minister. The Conservatives didn't really do anything on reconciliation. And we, over the past number of years, leaned in very, very strongly on it to begin the work. Because let's all understand that the true journey of reconciliation will take decades. But the work that we're doing with landmark agreements like this, with moments of recognizing the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, with investments right across the country to build partnerships with Indigenous peoples, with Inuit, with First Nations, with Métis, has changed the nature of this country for the better. There is a lot more work to do, and all of you young people here, you're going to be leading on reconciliation through the coming years. But what we've been able to do and what we're celebrating right now all together is that we've gotten it started in a very, very real way, and we're going to keep it up. So thank you all for welcoming me here. C'est un énorme plaisir d'être ici avec vous tous pour célébrer la Journée nationale de la réconciliation et de la vérité. Il reste énormément de travail à continuer à faire, mais on va le faire tous ensemble. We're going to continue to reconnect and recommit this day and every day to continuing with reconciliation. But I'm not going to speak any longer because you got food coming. I just want to wish you all a very, very great day on this. And I'm happy now to pass the microphone over to your MP, Michael McLeod, who is a dear friend and someone who is going to continue to stand up and fight for reconciliation. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. It's so good to be here in Inuvik, and at every event that I attend where Dwayne is speaking to his membership, he starts by saying, Akana. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but Akana. Bonjour, everyone. Takondi. Hello. It's so good to see everybody here wearing red, and it's so good to see so many people wearing the traditional garment. And I'm very happy to be able to be in the community to witness a very important signing between the Government of Canada with our Prime Minister Trudeau and Dwayne Smith, the Chair and Executive Officer of the Inuvik Regional Corporation, and of course with Honourable Lisa Semler from the Government of Northwest Territories. And I'm also very happy to see our Commissioner joining us here today. He's still working hard as the MC, even though now he holds a new title. It's all very exciting for me as your Member of Parliament, and as the only Member of Parliament that has attended a residential school, and I'm the only one that has that history. And so, of course, all the MPs ask me questions whenever they have a question about residential schools. A lot of people are still very curious as to what happened, because not everybody's aware of it. And it's very significant to have the signing happen on this day, on the very monumental coordination agreement on a very monumental day, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And we've got to remember that reconciliation requires action. It requires work to address and deal with the harms that were done by the policies of the past and the practices of the past. And I'm very proud to serve in a government that has been working towards making progress on reconciliation, true reconciliation. And we've really been investing in housing, we've been investing in languages, we've been investing in many areas that Indigenous people have identified as crisis situations. And I'm very, very happy to see that. Of course, more has to be done, and more investment will have to continue, and a lot of work will have to happen down the road and into the future if we're going to restore what was once taken away from us. And past colonial and discriminatory practices in the child and family services stripped Indigenous children and families from remaining connected to their parents, connected to their communities and traditions, and from their languages. So this coordination agreement is paving a better way forward. The Inuvik have always known how to best care for their children and families in their communities. And Inuvik children and youth thrive when their care and protection remains within their communities, surrounded by their loved ones, growing up immersed in their own culture. With the opportunity to pass forward generational teachings and traditional knowledge and act respecting First Nations, Inuit and Métis children, youth and families was developed for this very purpose. Reclaiming jurisdiction over Inuvik children and the operations of child and family services ensures the best interest of Inuvik children at the forefront of care. Today marks a significant day in history. With the signing of the coordination agreement by the Inuvik and the governments of Canada and the N.W.T, this agreement establishes mechanisms to support Inuvik in exercising jurisdiction over children and family services and creates an environment where the Inuvik children and youth can thrive, immersed in their culture and connected to the land. This is the 11th coordination agreement in Canada, and the Inuvik are the first Inuit group, and the Inuvik Regional Corporation is the first land claims organization to enact their own child and family services law by using the framework of the Act. As well, this agreement is the first with the government of the Northwest Territories. Inuvik law gained force gained the force of federal law pursuant to the Act respecting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families in November of 2021. The Inuit Creetun Rarit and the Inunikun Malik Gasak law will reform how child and family services are delivered to Inuvialuit children, families, and communities. The Inuvialuit Regional Corporation has delivered a service model which emphasizes prevention services in line with the Inuvialuit culture and recognizes traditional kinships, connections beyond the immediate family. These changes aim to reduce the number of Inuvialuit children in care to create an environment in which they can thrive. This coordination agreement supports the implementation of the Inuvialuit Child and Family Services Law and represents the ongoing relationships between the Inuvialuit, Maligasak, Canada, and the Government of Northwest Territories. It outlines the role and responsibilities of all parties and ensures emergency services, support measures, and other coordination mechanisms are put in place to help the implementation of the Inuvialuit Child and Family Services Law. It establishes funding agreements from the federal and territorial governments to ensure sufficient funding resources to secure long-term positive income for Inuvialuit children, families, and communities. I understand it has taken longer to reach this milestone than any of us would have hoped for. I want to thank and acknowledge the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation and the Inuvialuit for their patience, their perseverance, and faith that we would reach this together. And today's signing is only the beginning, and it reflects a joint commitment to ongoing collaborative and respective relationships. Congratulations to the Inuvialuit, to the children, the families, the elders, the knowledge keepers, and the leadership. And congratulations to the staff of the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation for taking this step to reform the delivery of child and family services. Thank you to everyone who has put in such a tremendous effort to make today's accomplishment happen. Thank you very much. Masicho. Now you have to send properly.
Inuvialuit Regional Corporation on the signing of the Inuvialuit Coordinated Agreement and Fiscal Agreement. I am proud of this announcement being made on September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and hope it is a sign of further reconciliation and collaboration to come. The Inuvialuit Coordination Agreement it identifies how the N.W.T, the IRC, the Malagaksak, and the Government of Canada will support the successful implementation of the Inuvialuit Way of Living law in the Northwest Territories. Under this agreement, prevention services, including voluntary support services, will be delivered to Inuvialuit across the Northwest Territories exclusively by Malagaksak. The N.W.T will continue to maintain responsibility for protection services and will emphasize ongoing and continued collaboration with Malagaksak throughout this service delivery. This approach will help support the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation as they develop their Inuvialuit jurisdiction at their own pace, in their own way. We have established an implementation working group to ensure smooth transition as this agreement this agreement is implemented. The group will continue to work together to ensure service providers, families are well informed and supported throughout these changes. This is a significant monument for both the N.W.T. in Canada. As an Inuvialuit, I am especially pleased that this positive development in relations between our government has taken place while I am minister. For many years, Indigenous communities have voiced concerns about historic and present-day delivery of child and family services, including the overrepresentation of Indigenous children and youth receiving these services. We recognize that colonization has had a profound ongoing impact well-being on Northern families. This agreement demonstrates the shared commitment by all parties to work together in the best interests of children, youth, and families. This agreement is one way that the G&W.T. is shifting child and family services towards a culturally safe system. In support of the intent and principles for service delivery set out in the Federal Act respecting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families, we, the G&W.T., our door is open to a standing offer to meet with any Indigenous government seeking a briefing on G&W.T.'s implementation of the Federal Act, or who has interest in jurisdiction under the pathways of this Federal Act, or through their final self-government agreements. The G&W.T. will continue to collaborate with Indigenous governments across the Northwest Territories on child and family services. Children are a priority, and we know that services that best meet the needs of Indigenous children and best support the well-being of families are those provided by Indigenous governments, Indigenous communities under Indigenous law. So congratulations once more to the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation on this momentous occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, Michael, and Lisa, for your comments, the acknowledgement to this agreement. It has taken some time, but we're here. Now the other process is implementation. Before I call on our elder to do the prayer, I just want to acknowledge, I see one of my board members here, Lawrence Rubin. He can just raise his hand. He's Lawrence was one of the strong advocates for us to get this through. He's a residential school survivor himself, so he knows firsthand, like Michael said, all of the issues that we've gone through. I've told the Prime Minister earlier, I'm the third generation of residential school and the matters that everyone was put through. So it's going to take us generations to rebuild who we are, our self-esteem, our culture, our identity, and Canada is prepared to do that with us. So much appreciated. This is one of the major steps for us to start to reclaim our proper process, as he has said, working together to look after the well-being of our children. But again, before we have the meal, we usually do a prayer. And I want to acknowledge and recognize the elders around the room as well, because we would not be here today without them. Much appreciated for what they've done for us to get here also. Just want to say thank you for that. I was joking with Michael when he was trying to say a few Inuvik words. Some of our elders were laughing, at least he's making the attempt, but it's Ariga, Michael. Ariga. Oh, I didn't see, sorry. Another one of my board members here is Melinda. She's the Inuvik Community Corp. But my board has been a very strong supporter of this initiative because we know the children are our future. With that, I'd like to call on my elder Lillian, just for your information. Her parents used to babysit me when I was tiny, but she's not allowed to say what they would call me.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Prime Minister and everyone that came for a visit. And It's so good to see everyone here together. My goodness, I'm one of the fortunate persons to keep my language as I went to residential school. And I'm just so thankful that my grandmother knew what I was going to be going through the time I'll be living by myself. And that helped me a lot. Knowing my language, speaking, teaching, and translating. Anybody needs a translation for Inuvik, I have it. If I could understand all of them in English, sometimes I need help to tell me what's in English, and my children and my relatives, my nieces, nephews, and my boys, my sisters, and all my relatives, they help me along with that. And I'm just going to pray for the food that we're going to have. I say it in my language, and I say a prayer for everyone in my language. We all stand. Thank you. Atanek nalungin niya kavit hibon hirap tingnik nalungin niya kavit kanok muna hirap tingnik ay chokap tigut isumaturonik atanek kuya paraligit kitka ukoa Mr. Trudeau kay man maunga pula ako ta ili chokap kaya ako ta kanok ili hayak takapta na unilugit ay mabibut tabong hakaruk ilangit ilihariaktut pang mapakahin kuya paraligit kitka inuit kihula ka inyo na aktor ikayok huflugit iling nun ilibit kihibit kamanaktotin nalungit chotin ikayulagitin ang usfut kilang mi nakikirakput kaitkin nakokahlu kutsakilagaluwahin nilit ko sa iksomik Timiting yun, mamiritik kami. Kuya na God.
Okay, my understanding is that people will line up to get their food. The elders do not need to go up. There's supposed to be staff bringing them a plate of foods. I see Aaron thumbs up back there. But so usually we do it with the elders. If they want to go up, they should be the ones to go up first. Others, please have patience. We hope there's enough food available. A lot of it is country food, so I'm hoping that, I know the Prime Minister's had some muktuk in the past and other things, and I think we might have some reindeer there. But please help yourselves.